From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, everyone, happy Monday. Good morning. James Azar here with the Cyber News and your practitioner brief. I hope you had an uneventful weekend, although that would be satire at this point. We're a year to the day of SolarWinds, which means let's pop in another one. Log4Shell over the weekend. Popped in on a Friday afternoon, very similar to how SolarWinds and kind of was discovered, right? Kind of FireEye put everyone on notice on a Friday afternoon, and then over the weekend, everyone was kind of scrambling, and then come Monday, Tuesday, and as the week went along, we kind of realized the severity of that specific breach. Here we go with a 0-day, not necessarily a breach, but a 0-day. But I will tell you one thing, everyone was working double time over the weekend to unpatch it, and our adversaries were working double time to gain access. So a basic show, we're going to be talking about that, but that's not the only thing we're going to be talking about today. Log4Shell is obviously top of mind, and I see all of your comments. We're going to get to all of those here in just a moment. But there's also Microsoft is detailing a new type of malware that is essentially cloning itself to specific environments. That's going to be absolutely, we're going to talk about the Manga Botnet and $148 million lost to gift card fraud so far this year. We'll talk about what could we do as practitioners. All that and more here in just a moment. Today's show would not be possible without our friends over at Know4, so make sure you give them a shout out and see more about them in the show notes. Tomorrow, joining me on this very, very special show, I'll have a very special guest. We're going to be talking about offensive cyber capabilities. It is going to be very, very, very big. Rosa will be joining me tomorrow, formerly of the CIA, now at Know4. We're going to be having a conversation around the whole idea of offensive cyber weapons and cyber espionage. Don't miss it. That's right here tomorrow on the show. But we've got Log4Shell. But before we do that, let's get into some of your comments. Good morning to Matt Lee. Yeah, I think Paul's right there. That's a safe bet. Good morning to Brent. Good morning to Tadius. Good morning to David. Good morning to Mr. Dan Hauser. I hope you've got your cup of coffee ready. That beer. Good morning, everyone. Steve Martin, good morning. Have that Peace Coffee Peru blend. Oh, that's awesome. One of the best write-ups around this one is the government cert one. Yes, I totally agree, Larry. I actually wanted to feature that. So I am not going to, Matt Lee, I'm not going to put up your last comment, buddy, because of social engineering. All right. And IKEA brew this morning. You guys are all having your awesome brew. I'm having my Illy double espresso, my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Delicious, nutritious, my third of the morning because it's Monday and Lord knows I need it. All right. Coffee cup. Cheers, everyone. All right. Let's get right into the Log4Shell vulnerability. So all over, you guys remember a breach, September of 2017, just around that time period. It was called Equifax. And Equifax at the time was the largest breach. The reason for the Equifax breach was because they didn't patch their Apache struts. So now we get another Apache 0-day vulnerability, and we'll see, only time will tell if people will take it as seriously or if it will be dismissed. The Apache Log4j or Log4Shell is a Java-based logging tool that's included in a lot of open source libraries. It's directly embedded in so many different popular software applications. It came to light recently that the cross-platform library is affected by critical remote code execution vulnerability tracked as CVE 2021-44228, dubbed as Log4. Shell has a CVSS score of 10. Log4Shell was reported to Log4j developers by the Alibaba Cloud security team on November 24th. A patch was made available on December 6th. with the latest version of 2.15.0. Proof of concept exploits were developed shortly after. The list of affected companies and software include Apple, Tencent, Twitter, Baidu, Steam, Minecraft, Cloudflare, Amazon, Tesla, Palo Alto, IBM, Pulse Secure is on the list, folks, if you're still using them. Gedra, Elasticsearch, Apache, Google, WebEx, LinkedIn, Cisco, and VMware. This list is being updated, and CISO's already updated it. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Cloudflare reported seeing evidence of exploitation already on December 1st, but mass exploitation began only after the flaw was publicly disclosed. While most of the activity observed up until now has been focused on the identification of vulnerable system exposed to the internet, there's been a significant increase in actual attacks exploiting it because the threat actors know there's a patch coming. So they're no longer just scanning and looking. They're scanning, exploiting. They'll take care of all the rest later. There's evidence of exploitation against Apple's iCloud service and Minecraft servers as of right now. There's plenty of companies out there talking about this stuff. Jen Easterly, the director of CISA, issued a statement on Friday pointing out that the vulnerability has been added to the agency's catalog of known exploited flaws, which compels federal and civilian agencies to immediately address it. Our Canadian neighbors up north are also taking this threat seriously. The Canadian Revenue Agency actually took its systems offline as a precaution. Microsoft has released a ton of blogs for mitigation guidance for Azure. There's been a ton of those also with VMware, Cisco, and many, many more. CISO's also expanded its must-patch list with 40 OS and other vulnerabilities also on it. If you can tell, other security issues that CISA added to the list include the CVE 2021-3539-4, the Realtek Jungle SDK, the Fuel CMS, and the Pi-hole Admin LTE. According to CISA, there's evidence that threat actors are actively exploiting the vulnerabilities in the catalog, and organizations are advised to apply the available patch for these bugs as soon as possible. These types of vulnerabilities are a frequent attack vector, so make sure you get your stuff patched. So here's the deal with this one, folks. There's a lot of different things that go on with this, but I want to kind of break it down simply. The software supply chain is just as critical as anything else you do. This is one thing you do not control. It's one thing no security professional controls, because this is purely DevOps. And these are open source repositories and libraries that are out there that are part of a greater build of software and applications. That's why having almost a kind of like a nutritional fact kind of list of ingredients within software is something so critical. Looking at this specific vulnerability, though, if you're not patching, you better be putting on mitigating controls. And if you're not putting on mitigating controls, then you're setting yourself up to be talked about on the show later for not doing that. Now, patching is not always easy, but you've got to explain the risk to the business, and you've got to be able to take it. I'm giving a keynote in a few days at FutureCon here in Atlanta, and I've adjusted some of my talk around this specific story as well. So we'll talk a lot more about this week, I'm sure, but nonetheless, make sure you're patched, make sure your vendors are patching, and if they're not patching, ask them why not. And I would be, if you haven't done so already, I'd be sending an email to every single one of your vendors going like, hey, how are you impacted by this? Because most of them are not communicating. So make sure you do that as well. Microsoft is detailing the building blocks of a widely active Qakbot banking Trojan. The specific infection chain associated with the multi-purpose Qakbot malware has been broken into distinct building blocks, an effort that Microsoft said will help detect and block the threat in an effective manner proactively. The Microsoft 365 Defender threat intel team dubbed Qakbot a customizable chameleon that adapts to the needs of the multiple threat actor groups that can utilize it as well. Qakbot is believed to be the creation of a financially motivated cyber criminal threat group known as Gold Lagoon. It was first discovered in 2017. It's a lot like a trick bot. It's evolved from its early roots as a banking Trojan to become a Swiss Army knife capable of data exfil, acting as a delivery mechanism for second-stage payloads, including ransomware. Also notable is its tactic of hijacking victims' legitimate email threads from Outlook clients via email collector components and using those threads as phishing lures to infect other machines or do use them for business email compromise. Compromising IMAP services and ESPs or hijacking email thread allows attackers to leverage the trust a potential victim has in people they've already corresponded with before, meaning the email will come through as part of a chain and not something new. Meaning specifically, folks, that you will not be able to recognize the fact that you're being phished, and not a lot of awareness training can help you with that one. Spam campaigns have resulted in the deployment of a new loader called Squirrel Waffle. We talked about that several weeks back, so you can go and check it out as well. This is another one of those malwares that is very, very effective. And something where there's a lot of mitigating controls that one needs to do, including recognizing the signatures, adding those effectively into your EDR, XDR, MDR solution, whatever solution you are using, putting in mitigating controls, and keeping people aware of what's going on. This is significant, folks. Really, really something here. I want to get to Dan's comment, though. Software supply chains have been ignored for too long. Bills of materials for software is overdue. Time for us to deal with this. Come to terms with the full cost of open source sprawl. Couldn't agree more. Good morning, Anthony. Thank you for being here. And Nelson says, this is why I avoid using the banking app on a smartphone. Thanks for the cyber news. Portuguese regards from Frankfurt. I love Frankfurt, Germany, man. One of my favorite cities. All right. Mirai-based Manga Botnet is targeting recent TP-Link vulnerabilities. The newly discovered variant of the Mirai-based Manga Botnet is targeting a vulnerability in TP-Link routers that was addressed last month. The reason I bring this one up is because we're in a hybrid work mode. A lot of people are still working from home. TP-Link is one of the most popular consumer routers on the planet. A lot of people, when COVID came out, when kids were studying from school, went out and upgraded their routers, upgraded their internet, and so forth. Well, if they're not patching those routers, then they are a target of this specific botnet. The Manga botnet draws its name from a token string that was previously included in the SSH telnet commands and from the file names it uses for its binaries such as dark.arm, dark.mips, and others. As part of the newly identified attacks, the botnet operators updated the malware to add an exploit for CVE 2021-41653 in an attempt to infect potentially vulnerable devices before users could update them. The attack has been going on since pre-Thanksgiving, November 22nd, so nearly a month now. By exploiting recently published vulnerabilities, this malware campaign capitalizes on the gap between the time of disclosure of a vulnerability and the application of a patch to compromise IoT devices. This gives a higher potential of spreading, making it a more prolific than anything else. If you know someone in your organization that's using a TP-Link, make sure they've updated. If they haven't, help them do it. Again, inventory, so critical. A bill, understanding what your employees are using is so important, folks. Something to keep in mind. Finally, we'll end the show with this. Americans lost $148 million to gift card scams this year. This is according to the Federal Trade Commission, who says Americans reported losing $148 million to gift card scam in the first 9 months of the year. Almost 40,000 consumers reported falling victims to scams where gift cards were the chosen form of payment throughout the year. This type of scam payments have increased every year during the last 3 years, now reaching staggering numbers both in the number of reports and the total amount of losses. The FTC does have a website, ftc.gov/giftcards, that does help to contact gift card companies to try to stop payments for the scammers, so it's not really big. Google Play, Apple, eBay, and Walmart gift cards are the popular options. They've now switched to asking for Target gift cards, which are now their most popular choice as well. Make sure you pass this on to your employees. Make sure your employees pass this on to their parents and uncles and aunts and everyone else in their family so that we can put an end to this as well. Folks, that's it for us here today. We'll be back with a lot more tomorrow. Until then, thank you all for tuning in and watching today's show. We're going to have a lot more on Log4Shell tomorrow. Also tomorrow, joining me is going to be Rosa from KnowBe4. We're going to have a conversation on NSO, offensive cyber capabilities. Rosa was formerly of the CIA. We're going to have a great conversation on that. We're going to talk also about the software supply chain in offensive cyber capabilities. So we'll talk about Log4Shell. Don't miss tomorrow's show. I promise you it is going to be epic proportions. We've never had someone who was a former intelligence person who's going to come on the show and really kind of dig deep and answer all the tough questions I have to ask. So that is with us here tomorrow. Make sure to check out Know Before in the show notes, folks. We'll have a lot more, like I said, tomorrow right here at 9 a.m. Please make sure to subscribe, follow, and share today's show. Thank you for all your comments. Until then, have a great rest of your day. I hope if you worked all weekend, you got some rest, and pray for the folks of Kentucky, Illinois, and Indiana. A tornado with over 100 dead Americans over the weekend. Those folks do need help. If you're impacted by this, please reach out. I do have some contacts on the ground in those areas that are helping out. So if you need anything or you know people in that area that need help, please do let me know. You can reach out to me through our website at CyberHub Podcast or my LinkedIn page as well. Till then, have a great rest of your day and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.